Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the all-new 2023 / maybe 2024 Chevy Silverado fully electric pickup truck. In the first part of this video, we're going to be going over the confirmed information we have on the truck. Then we're going to get into a little bit of speculation, and then we're going to get into whether or not this truck is all that important. And then we'll finish things off with whether or not you should look into purchasing this new Silverado EV. With all that being said, let's get into the video. Now let's get into what we know with this new Silverado 1500 EV. So first off, it's going to be built alongside the new Hummer EV, so it's not going to get in the way of production of the regular Silverado whatsoever because it's being built in a different factory. Now, aside from that, it is most likely going to be a 2023 or a 2024 model year, and so just expect this truck to arrive late 2022 at the earliest, and then at the latest it'll probably arrive early 2024 in terms of the actual years. Obviously, car makers usually release the newer model year a year earlier at this point. That's just kind of how things go. And then on top of that, it will be sold alongside the gas-powered Silverado, so they're not getting rid of the gas-powered truck, they're just selling this alongside the gas-powered truck. Now, aside from that, they're basically shooting for a 400-mile range with this truck, and that makes sense. Most manufacturers releasing half-ton EV trucks are shooting for that 400 to 500-mile range, and Chevy is no different. And so, right, we'll probably have a 400-mile range with the truck. Now, on top of that, they're also going to be building work truck versions of this electric truck, so it seems like Chevy's really trying to commercialize this new EV truck. So they're going to have like the commercial version of it, and then they're going to have the quote-unquote retail version of it. So think like the LT and the LTZ and the High Country, all that, but electric versions. And then it will be using the same Ultium battery packs that the Hummer EV uses, so good technology overall. And then on top of that, since Chevy is most likely redesigning the interior with the Silverado for the 2022 model year, I talked about that in a previous video, those changes are going to be put into this new EV truck, and I think that's why they're holding off on releasing this truck, is they're waiting to release the changes with the Silverado in general, and then they're going to release this EV truck after they've implemented those changes. So you get the all-new interior, and then you also get the EV stuff that comes with it as well. And yeah, aside from that, that's pretty much everything we have from a confirmed information perspective. And so let's kind of get a little bit into the speculation. So in terms of power figures, if we look at what Ford is doing with the Lightning and what Tesla's done with the Cybertruck, and then what we have with the Rivian R1T, I think it's safe to assume that this Silverado EV is going to have torque figures probably around the 700 to 1,000 pound-foot range. I mean, the new Hummer EV has like 10,000 pound-feet of torque is what GM is shooting for, so I think they can handle giving this truck like 1,000 pound-feet of torque, no problem. And then horsepower, again, with that new Ford F-150 Lightning, it's in the 500 horsepower range for the higher output version, and so I think that it's safe to assume that the Silverado is probably going to have similar power outputs just so that it's competitive with Ford. And I kind of mentioned that in my Ram video with the new Ram 1500 EV, is they're going to want to stay competitive with what the other manufacturers are releasing. And I mean, obviously, they said that they're going for a 400-mile range, and so you can see that they're going to stick with what the other manufacturers are doing. And then, like I said, new interior, so I think that's pretty cool. So we can expect that it's going to have a more futuristic looking interior than what we have in the current Silverado. But I'm not sure if they'll really change things too much. Chevy's kind of a little bit more on the conservative side, so I don't know if we'll have like a crazy different gauge cluster and overall and like infotainment system and all that kind of stuff compared to the regular Silverado to make it more futuristic since it's the EV version. I think that they'll probably just have those updates that are happening with the 2022 model year and throw it into this truck, and I think that it'll just be that pretty much. And then if you guys are wondering on towing and payload and all that kind of stuff, again, this is just speculation, but judging by what they're doing with the other trucks, expect the payload capacity to be somewhere in the high teens, I imagine, with the half-ton, and then expect the towing to be in that, like, I bet 8 to 10,000 pound range, again, to keep it competitive with the Lightning. And then in terms of styling, it's pretty much just going to look like what the Silverado looks like right now, but with the small exterior tweaks they're doing for the 2022 model year, where they're slightly changing like where the logo is on the grille, and they're slightly changing how the front fascia looks and all that. So there'll be small tweaks, and then obviously I'm sure the whole front end will be completely basically smooth, right? What they do with electric cars, where all all the venting that you have for the engine, they completely cover all of that. They'll probably do that. So I guess that'll be the biggest aesthetic change. But for the most part, it's pretty much just going to look like a Silverado. And so to someone who's not a car person, they're probably not going to be able to tell that this is an electric Silverado unless they see the badges, because obviously they'll have some badges. But that is the confirmed information aside, next to rather the unconfirmed or speculative information. Let's get into the importance of this new Silverado EV. So obviously this is not going to be the first EV half-ton truck in the segment. We've got the F-150 Lightning that'll be here next year. We've got the Rivian R1T, which is kind of more of like a mid-size slash half-ton truck because it's kind of in between size-wise, so I guess that's not really a half-ton. And then we've got the Tesla Cybertruck. So we've got some other trucks that are going to be in this electric truck half-ton-ish size, right, truck segment that'll be out before the Silverado. But this is really important because it's coming from one of the big three manufacturers, right? We've got Ford, we've got Ram, and we've got Chevy. And so it's going to be important just because, again, it's coming from one of the big three. Now, I don't think that Chevy's really going to shake up things all that much. Obviously, the new Hummer EV is absolutely crazy, and we'll see some trickle down with some of the technology from the Hummer EV, but I don't think they're going to go too crazy because they're going to want this Silverado EV to be a little bit, I guess, more affordable, right? The Hummer EV is well over 6 figures, and with the Silverado, especially since they're going to be making a work truck version of it, you got to imagine they're not going to be able to pack nearly as much tech into the truck. And so I think it's just going to be a pretty simple formula. I think it's just going to be a half-ton truck that is powered via electricity versus being powered via gas. I think that's really going to be the biggest difference. They're not going to do crazy techie stuff like what they're doing with the Hummer. But again, it's still important, and I think that the work truck side of things is the most important part, because with the Ford F-150 Lightning, and obviously we don't have as much from Ram, but with the Ram 1500, it sounds like they're really trying to target retail buyers, whereas Chevy, I mean, they're going right out and saying, hey, we want commercial buyers to buy these EV trucks. And so I think that'll be the biggest thing with this Silverado, is they're going to be focusing on making an affordable work truck version of this EV truck. And so it'll really change things in the, I guess, workplace, right? Because if you work a construction job, I mean, probably get used to electric vehicles, because your boss might end up buying a bunch of these electric Silverados, especially if they can get some sort of tax credit, which I think Chevy actually exceeded the vehicle. I think they've sold enough electric vehicles you don't get the tax credit from them. But regardless of that, right, it just might make more sense from a cost perspective. And so, yeah, I mean, in the next like 3 to 5 years, all of your construction trucks, or most of them, might be EV trucks, which is pretty crazy to think of. And I think that's the biggest impact with this Silverado EV, is that they're really focusing on that market, focusing on making it affordable. And I'm sure they're going to focus on making sure that this truck is obviously can do all the stuff that you need to do for a work type truck. But yeah, that's on the important side of things. And then let's get into whether or not you should look into purchasing one of these. So again, just like I've said with the other vehicles, it just depends on what you're looking for. So this isn't going to be the first EV half-ton truck. So if you want to be the cool kid on the block, then Ford F-150 Lightning, Rivian R1T, or Tesla Cybertruck, right? Those are going to be out. Well, we'll see what happens, but most likely, right, those are going to be out before this Silverado EV. And so if you want to be the first person with an electric half-ton, go to one of those. But in terms of the benefits of going for Chevy, again, it doesn't sound like they're really trying to push the envelope from a technological standpoint with the Silverado like they are with the Hummer. And so, yeah, there's a downside, which you probably won't get as cool tech, but I think the reliability is going to be a little bit stronger because, again, they're not really pushing things too much. And so I think they're going to be focusing on making sure this is a really reliable platform and just a reliable vehicle overall. And so I guess that'll be the benefit of going for Chevy is, yeah, it might not be as cool and exciting and as flashy as the other competitors, but I think reliability is going to be stronger with the truck because they're kind of just focusing in on simple things, right? They're not trying to make it too complex. So I definitely think that'll be the benefit with this. And then on top of that, right, we still haven't seen what the new Silverado is going to look like, the 2022. And so these new updates could make the truck just as nice as what you get with Ram and with Ford. And so if the updates make the truck as nice as Ram and Ford, and then you have an electric version, then, well, there you go. The thing will pretty much just sell itself at that point. But yeah, that's pretty much everything in terms of the importance of it, and then whether or not you should get one. Again, I think the biggest benefit with the Chevy is I think things are going to be a little bit more on the simple side. So reliability, I'm sure, is going to be a little bit stronger compared to the other manufacturers that are trying to really push the envelope, right? Whenever you push the envelope, things are going to break. That's just how things work with cars. But yeah, that's going to sum things up. So if you're stopping for the first time, I'd really appreciate if you'd subscribe, comment down below what you think, and then I will see all of you in that next video.